Okay, as you can see, we've made a bit of a hole in the floor now. After I chipped out with concrete, we typically found an old foundation. You can just see it over there underneath. Basically, you can see where the two parts of the floor meet. Obviously, there was an old building here before this one, so I had to get a kangaroo back here again. So I borrowed one just to get that out because it would have taken forever by hand. I dug the rest out by hand and wheelbarrowed it outside yesterday in the pitch black. So we've gone down to the depth we need to be at now, which is 11 inches, allowing for concrete at the bottom and then flush fitting it with the floor. So now I really need to sort of put some boards in, ready to lay this concrete in the bottom. It's a little bit funny with levels in here, just because we've got so many different slopes going on. But obviously what we're working by is level. The pit is level, and obviously we want the car to be level on the dyno so it stays central and everything. So we'll be mounting it level and hopefully fairly level with the pit, although maybe slightly lower, otherwise it's going to be a big drop onto the floor in here. But it might look a bit odd because the floor in here is much higher this end of the workshop than it is that end. So obviously as you look that way, the ramp on the front is going to get bigger and bigger. But whatever it looks like, it's just going to have to look like, because it needs to be level really. So yeah, I'm just going to put some boards across the pit now to get my levels, and we're going to put some pegs in the base of the hole at the right height, and then we'll look at putting some shutter boards on the edges. Right, just put some shutters down each side, levelled both ways. Okay, I've just laid about 4 inches of concrete in the base of the hole now, and just squeezed it back and tamped it down. So that's going to be the base, and then what I'll do is I'll wait that for a couple of days to go off. I'll take the boards out, and then we'll fill the the two side pieces afterwards to make sure everything's nice and level. Alright, I'm doing a bit of work on these brakes on the stators today. The next problem I got to try and overcome is the little passageways. These are like a cast iron unit with the fins internally, but it's very important, obviously, the way the dyno works, that you can regulate the water level inside the inside the rotor housing, so that you can sort of vary the load. Now, the way that Clayton do this is via a load and unload pipe. There's actually 2 load pipes and 1 unload, so that's basically adding water and draining water. Now, of course, to be able to add water and drain water, there also needs to be a vent to allow the air to come in and out. Now, it's a very clever design, whereby the air basically enters, but this is the vent port on the side. It then comes inside. I've taken the core plugs out the back. It then ventures through, and if you look inside the hole, you can see a small hole where it basically actually then travels through the vane and up through a small hole here. And ordinarily there's this little snout on the end with a hole in it, which basically puts the vent out in the middle of nowhere, which is an air pocket normally, so that you only breathe air, or at least 90% air. The problem with this is, obviously, over the years it's just fills up with crud. Now I've tried to clear the crud out of the inside of the vane here, but it's just absolutely solid, and I can't clear it. So I'm coming up with another plan, and basically I've just practiced on the spare one here. We've hopefully got a new one of these coming, so this one's kind of redundant now, which is nice. So this is the one I had to do a lot of repair to, versus this one which was in much better condition. So hopefully we're going to have a new one and this one. So I've done a bit of experiment with this one, where I've basically drilled a hole from the back here, which then comes up. It's hard to see with the camera, but it comes up in the base of the vane there, and then planning on just running a piece of copper pipe, soldering it into the casing, put it through the hole, bend it over so it ends up in about the same place, again solder it in the top, and then basically we'll just have the copper pipe acting as the vent instead of the vane, just because I can't see how we can actually recover that. And also, out of interest, so you know, one of the loading vanes also comes in the side of the housing, comes into another core plug in the side here, where you can see there's another vane that's open, and it then comes through that vane and out that small hole there. This one is actually clear, which is ideal. The other load vane actually goes into the housing itself on the outside. Right, so I've just cleaned up a hole now in one of the vanes, and you can just see there's another hole down into the base. I've made up this little breather pipe out of copper, which is a bigger bore than the original breather. So this basically is going to sit in the hole. Whether I can do it one-handed or not, I don't know. Probably not. a bit fiddly to get in, like that. See, it just runs down the back through the hole. See, I will attach that there. It's important that it's off the surface or else it won't be in airspace. And you can see that just pokes through the rear there into the vent area. That's that mounted in there now. You should see the water should be able to smoothly, cleanly come over the top of that and hopefully allow air to come back through. Right, I've cleaned these heat exchangers up the best I can. Just removed all the surface rust completely, basically got it back to bare metal. I've just covered it in coat with zinc primer, just so that it's sort of protected a little bit. Hopefully keep the corrosion out. Obviously I'll be running some water with antifreeze and suitable stuff in it, which obviously these have been ran with just straight dirty water for many years. Okay, you can just see how I've sort of resined in that pipe now to make sure that's sealed on the inside, and then I'll be putting some new core plugs in there. Okay, so this is the other side of the heat exchanger now. This one's actually in very good condition. No pitting to the actual copper tubing at all. So this is where the heat is actually exchanged from the water that circulates around the brake, and obviously the water that goes through the cooling tower, because obviously all the energy is sort of made into heat. And you can see where the water flows in here and flows out there, and of course the water from the other end is coming from the tank, which is inside the coils, and it's just a basic heat transfer process. So I've just cleaned that up a bit. I've given the two units a lick of paint just to tidy them up a bit. Right, this is the cover for the heat exchanger. So this is basically what routes the water which is coming in and going out down the two various passages that I showed you earlier. I've just wire brushed it down, cleaned the bore up where the O-ring sits, and I've just given the outside a quick paint job just to tidy it up. This is the one that we've welded, if you remember, because it broke. I've just replaced the 3 core plugs in the back now to seal the housing up, so now I'm ready to actually start putting this thing back together again. Right, so we've got the stator housing bolted to the centre cartridge now. I've also bolted the rotor up and torqued that one up. So as you can see, that's now turning nice and freely. Obviously zero play with the new bearings. The ceramic steel's not bottomed out, which was the only concern I had. There's still spring play in it. So I'm quite pleased with that. So now I'm going to start putting the heat exchanger and the casing on. Right, got the rotor cover on now, so that's covering in the stator and the rotor. So then the heat exchanger needs to come on, and just need to make sure these O-ring seats are perfect, and get the O-rings in there first. Right, almost back together with this first brake now. The heat exchanger's on, the water top is on, the locking collars are on, so it's really just the drive collar or support bearing and drive interface to go on there. Just got a couple of nuts to put on the bottom.